champion attended a press conference in Tokyo earlier in the week where a bout with Japanese kickboxer Tenshin Nasukawa was announced. Details of the fight were scarce despite it being set to headline Rizen's New Year's Eve card in Tokyo, but Mayweather now says he was misled and blindsided, and that a 9-minute 3-round exhibition was only supposed to happen in front of what he calls a small group of wealthy spectators for a very large fee. The fight would now appear to be off.
Oh dear. Football show.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Proud supporters of Responsible Gambling Week. Visit responsiblegamblingweek.org for details on who to contact if you or a friend need help or advice.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Well, Kenny, it's not often you see David De Gea rooted to a spot, looking at a ball fly in and realising he has absolutely no chance if that goes on target. Instead it crashes off the crossbar.
Yeah, it's the worst nightmare really. The ball, getting the ball just right of centre, just outside the 18-yard box on his left foot. You could see it coming, just wrapping his instep around the ball, looking for that far corner. As you mentioned, Joe, the guy didn't move, just a foot lower. It's in the top corner. He just De Gea then after it hit the crossbar and bashed over, did kind of a Peter Schmeichel clap of the hands to the defence and said, any chance? Yeah, basically saying you need to get tight. You can't allow this fella to turn in space because he's got that ability to thread a pass and find the corner of the net clearly. What's the etiquette here as a centre-half, a former centre-half, when the goalkeeper gave it the all? Oh, lads. No, I think it's fair. Oh, you never had a problem with that? You're okay with that? Hung out to dry a little bit there? Every instance is different. Okay. But in terms of that type of quality player receiving the ball in that amount of space, I think it's fair for your goalkeeper to turn around and say, you got to get tired. Must have been a few goalkeepers who overdid it though. Oh, without it. You know what I mean? Like, a few times we were saying there's not much we could have done about that. I played not too many players, but an odd player on occasion who was prone to throwing his hands in the air. That kind of yeah. What do I have to play? What am I playing with here? So that doesn't go down well at all. Woe is me, everybody. I've got Kenny Cunningham in front of me. Alexis Sanchez is still a bit fond of that. He tried to press in the first few minutes against Juventus and started waving his hand as he was pressing. And he did that at Arsenal a lot. And initially people said, look at Alexis Sanchez. You're the only one trying out there. And I think people cottoned on to what he was doing. Well, that's right, because what you've got to think is happening there, they're either not set up to do the press, or actually he's not being disciplined in terms of when to go press. He's pressing when he shouldn't. It's showboating pressing, Kenny. Yeah, exactly. So that's ill-discipline as a player, tactical ill-discipline. That's exactly what it is. One of the strangest moments of the night. So Man City are 3-0 up now, so that will move Man City to 9 points in Group F, and Lyon are leading tonight as well on 8 points, so City still in control. Raheem Sterling, I guess, was awarded a penalty, didn't win a penalty. So for the second goal, he's in one-on-one and sort of inexplicably, I don't know when I've last seen this from a Champions League player, just absolutely booted the ground. He did, yeah. And people will see it later, I'm not being harsh on him. No, I was just speaking to Rich about it there, like... it's almost, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, it's almost one of those, I've probably done it myself on occasion, you end up stubbing the ground, maybe you're waiting for the contact from behind, it doesn't arrive, you end up stubbing the ground in front of the ball, but you actually confuse yourself, at that split second, you're actually unaware of what's happened, whether you've actually been clipped, what's happened here, I've kicked the ground, you're a little bit embarrassed, you're a bit unsure what's happened, but referee says penalty. Referee says penalty, but if very quickly the penny drops, you think, oh, hello, I've kicked the ground here. It's interesting. The debate's going to start whether you should have approached the referee and said, look, ref, this isn't a penalty. What would your teammates and manager want you to do there? Seriously. Would they want you to step up and say, no, referee? I wouldn't know of any player or manager who'd want me. You'd be derided for not going up and asking the referee to change his mind. But if you did... It's an interesting one. I think publicly the players and the manager would probably back you up, or fair play, gamesmanship, etc., credit to the club. But subconsciously, when the confines of the dressing room, you'd have a few players reasonably unhappy. Really? Yeah, I think you would. No, I think that's understandable. Yeah. I think it is just that win at all costs kind of mentality. Take any advantage when you can get it. I think when Di Canio caught the ball, Harry Redknapp flipped out at him. Yeah, no, I thought that was fair. because we've seen the repercussions of that since. I mean, it's absolutely, you know, I've gone on record about this before, Joe, in terms of these games with people stopping the games, taking responsibility on themselves to referee the games, kicking the ball out, etc., etc. It's gone way too far. That's a natural consequence. That was almost the start of it. That the Canio, people kind of reference that. You've just referenced it there. I've done.
Didn't Fowler miss the penalty intentionally? Was that one of the first great examples? Robbie Fowler. Did he miss a penalty against Arsenal?
Arsenal, wasn't it?
I'm almost sure.
Yeah, I remember there was definitely an instance at Arsenal when that was the case.
And I just deliberately missed the penalty.
I just think I cringe at a lot of it, to be honest. But that particular instance, the Sterling one, was interesting. That was. I've very rarely seen another example. I'm trying to think. I can't recollect another example of it. But that's the only. I give him a bit of benefit of the doubt and say he was actually unsure of actually what happened.
So interestingly, on Sterling, then, since he's joined Man City, I was going to mention this to you anyway. So 15-16, he played 46 times and scored 11 goals, 10 assists. And then 16-17, 47 appearances. So basically the same number of appearances in his first 2 seasons. 11 goals in the first season, 10 in the second. Although we did have 21 assists in the second season. And then we jumped to last season. There's weirdly 46, 47 and 46 appearances in those 3 seasons, exactly the same. Yeah. He's gone from scoring 11 and 10 goals to 23 goals and 17 assists. Yeah. So you really come on. Guardiola says the first season he was scared. He was looking, who is the guy I can pass to? And we spoke about that, and I said to him, try to score goals. I mean, I could be a coach when I read this nonsense.
Yeah, you're right. And you remember, Joe, there's the famous...
Is that it?
Well, it's part of it. You'd be surprised. It's just the simple messages you send to players. I think it's more complicated than that in terms of getting himself into better positions to receive the ball and more advanced.
But it was an attitude change about getting the right positions.
Yeah, confidence. Even in terms of the famous clip of Guardiola on the training pitch. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Grabbing hold and people
Kevin Coban's favourite clip.
Yeah, but people make it. And look, it is important. Oh, this is typical Guardiola. But if you actually look at what Guardiola was basically saying to Sterling was, get yourself in the half turn. That was it. Basically just receive the ball on the half turn, check your shoulder so you know the picture around you. Yeah. And that's pretty basic, but that's what good coaching is, just preaching the basics.
It's amazing really that it was just don't have your back to play. I mean, when Fabregas joined Arsenal, he said the most significant thing Wenger said to him was the first thing, which was don't ever take the ball in midfield with your back to goal. You would think, like, did no one mention that to him with Barcelona in the previous 5-6 years?
It's a simple thing, but I tell you what, Joe, it's not easy.
No doubt.
It's not easy. I played a couple of games in centre midfield.
For who? For who? Can we get the footage?
Yeah, no, you can't. Probably not. You probably won't get the footage. It was a Wimbledon. Joe Kinnear actually put me in to do a couple of proper old school man marking jobs at a certain stage of the season. We were really struggling to get a few results. Right, threw me in there to man mark a few players. So that's exactly what I did. But I remember when we got won back possession of the football, being acutely aware of the fact I literally didn't want to get on the ball.
Right.
In that I was only playing 10-15 yards advance, where generally I would have maybe in an orthodox central half position, but I couldn't literally receive the ball on the half turn. It was just, I was literally scared rigid. I couldn't do it.
Right.
Just couldn't get me body, the awareness, the pressure arriving quick, having to sort my feet out very quickly. I just didn't go looking for the ball.
Right.
Yeah, it was just a case of defensively do a job, nullify my opponent, and just basically stay away from the ball when we have it.
Right.
That was it.
I want to get your thoughts on the under-21 position, which is now a vacant managerial position in this country. But first, we're looking at Juventus. Manchester United still here, 0-0 with an hour coming up on the clock. Brian Kerr was in Virgin Media Sport tonight, gave this take on the United forward line this evening, which is Sanchez through the middle, Rashford...
left.
Sorry, Martial left and Lingard right. So it's Martial, Sanchez and Lingard.
United's forward line always looks good on paper, but they've not been delivered. And until Martial's had a little run, he scored 5 goals in 4 games. But before that, he looked miserable. Go back to the Chelsea match, he was miserable in the first half of the match. Looked like a fella. I was saying I have to take him off at half time. He's so poor. Suddenly he clicks. The manager doesn't seem to be extracting the best from those players. Doesn't seem to be giving them confidence. After they deliver with a goal or two, then he says great things about them. But in advance of the matches, so you look at them on paper, Sanchez has not been playing, he's been injured, but he's not delivered since he's come from Arsenal, not on a consistent basis. Lingard has had a good summer. Yeah. He's been out injured. Definitely potential there.
Same old story. They haven't really done much tonight either.
I thought Martial showed up well on a couple of occasions, carried a bit of a threat out, to be honest. I'm surprised. There's an obvious assumption Sanchez plays down the middle. Martial has to play off the left. People forget how effective he was, Joe, when he first came to the club as a centre forward under Van Gaal.
Pat Nevin says every time he's on and Martial comes up, he's playing in the wrong position. He played all his football in France through the middle.
I think he can play both. I think he's modified his game to play off the left, but you can't get away from how effective he was as his number 9, a lone striker playing for United when he first came to the football club. Different type of player to Lukaku, not looking to get involved in a battle with the centre halves, just looking to get on the shoulder, timing of runs, dependent a little bit in terms of the quality of balls coming from midfield. But he was hugely successful playing down the middle, and I totally agree with Brian in terms of how he's been handled by the manager. Him, Rashford, I mean, you could repeat it, Shaw, Smalley, all over the pitch. And yes, and it was interesting, he's on a good little run at the moment, Martial. I read an article the weekend about Mourinho, and the talk was, you've got to give Mourinho credit, he's turned this lad's career around. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous.
How has he spotted this diamond in the rough?
This lad's career around. This lad was operating at a very high level before he came to the football club. If anything, you could argue Mourinho's dragged him down.
Well, he's out of the French squad. He'd have a World Cup winners medal if he'd maybe gone to a different club. He was in the French squad before Mourinho got hold of him.
No, I agree with you. This is my point. So I absolutely agree with Brian. For me, Mourinho's actually held these players back in terms of publicly putting the players down, always pointing to their deficiencies, maybe what they're not good at, what they need to improve upon, how they have to win him over. And I mean, mentally, that gets in some players' head. People might say, mentally weak, players are so fragile. But if that's the reality of the situation, you've got to deal with it.
We all want a bit of encouragement, like it's natural. Virgin Media Sport is the new home of European football in Ireland. More than 400 UEFA Champions League, Europa League, Nations League games live this season. Virgin Media Sport, exclusive to all Virgin Media TV customers. You can also download the TV Anywhere app and stream all the action whenever and wherever they like. So the latest away from Turin, where it's still 0-0, is Madrid still 4-0 up on Victoria Pilsen. Again, Gareth Bale on the score sheet tonight. Graham Hunter was saying he's under a bit of pressure at the moment. Benzema twice, Casemiro once. And Man City still 3-0 up on Shakhtar. That's in Manchester. David Silva, Jesus and Sterling with the goals for City this evening. Benfica 1-0 up on Ajax. Bayern are 1-0 up on Athens. Lewandowski on 31 minutes. I'm going to a break. I sense you want to tell me something.
No, I'll wait. I'm getting good at this. I'm resisting the temptation to jump in whenever I think I...
How big a point is it?
No, it wasn't. It was just about Manchester City, David Silva, but it'll wait. In terms of management style, Mourinho, Guardiola, etc., it'll wait. Put it on the shelf.
That's a teaser. So Jonathan Northcroft's written a new book, Sunday Times football correspondent, about his time at the World Cup. We're going to talk to him about that next.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Proud supporters of Responsible Gambling Week. Visit responsiblegamblingweek.org for details on who to contact if you or a friend need help or advice.
Lunchtime Live.
Some says, Ciara, forget about brown paper. Our sex education teacher told us to put a phone book on the guy's lap.
That is a good precautionary.
To be sure. And Philip says, crisp packet condoms would be very sore for the guy, especially if they were salt and vinegar. I did think that, and also they're kind of crunchy. They're kind of awful.
Stick with Durax thin feel.
Lunchtime Live with Ciara Kelly.
Thanks to VideoDoc.
Back tomorrow at midday on News Talk.
Hungry for healthy meal inspiration? Well, Irish mussels are high in iron and protein and naturally low in fat. Tasty too, especially in a spicy tomato and spinach sauce. Catch yours in store at the fish counter or in ready-to-cook packs. So go on, flex your muscles. Find recipes at boardbia.ie/fish.
At 410 a bid, at 410.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Colm O'Donnell of O'Donnell and Joyce Auctioneers, and I invite you to the Wild Atlantic Way property auction on November the 9th in the Harbour Hotel in Galway City, where there's exceptional value on offer when a substantial catalogue of properties all along the western seaboard will go under the auction hammer and must be sold. Don't miss this extraordinary Wild Atlantic Way property auction. For further information, contact O'Donnell and Joyce 091 564 212. That's 091 564 212. All done. Sold.
We began our search for Ireland's greatest businesswomen some months ago, and now we've got our shortlist. The Image Businesswoman of the Year award stretches across 8 categories, plus the overall Image Businesswoman of the Year. Join 800 of Ireland's key influencers on Monday, November the 19th as we announce the winners. The gala evening will include plenty of treats and surprises for all, as well as the great reveal. The Image Businesswoman of the Year Awards, sponsored by Liffey Valley, BMW, Samsung, Boots, Kuhn & Nagel, Irish Life Health, Virgin Media Business and Cairn Homes. Details on image.ie.
Proudly supported by News Talk.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index, reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
5 years warranty. 5 years roadside assistance. 3% APR.
The Renault van range with the Renault Traffic, Master and Kangoo. Great 191 van offers to get your engine going from just €215 per month. Visit your local Renault dealer today.
Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.
Enjoy all your favourite music in perfect sound quality with our range of audio options from Harvey Norman. Get the LG 20-watt Bluetooth speaker with up to 18 hours of battery life for just €99, saving you €80. Or get the Panasonic Bluetooth speaker with built-in Google Assistant for just €179, saving you €70. Hear it all at the Sound Redefined event at Harvey Norman with our great range of audio options. Visit us in store or online.
Go, Harvey, go!
If you're thinking of buying a residential rental property, ICS Mortgages can provide an excellent range of flexible buy-to-let mortgages, including interest-only terms of up to 15 years. We'll also help you to refinance your existing portfolio and grow your property investments. Call 1890 427 427, visit icsmortgages.ie or contact your local mortgage broker. ICS Mortgages, the property investor's choice. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply and are subject to change. The entire amount that you have borrowed will still be outstanding at the end of the interest-only period. Dillosk DAC, trading as Dillosk and ICS Mortgages, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Now, Jonathan Northcroft is a name I know you're all familiar with. He is the Sunday Times football correspondent. I'm sure you all follow his work. Well, he's written a new book, sort of by accident in many ways. It's about his time at the World Cup during the summer. And never has a book done more what it says in the tin than this one. So, Deadlines and Darts with Delhi, My World Cup Diary, England's Rebirth in Russia and Other Unexpected Tales. Jonathan, that about explains it.
Yeah, I've got a good publisher, Joe, came up with a snappier headline than I would have done. Yeah, I think I started it as a terrible Russian pun called Baka the Net, but they came up with Darts with Delhi.
Stick to the copy. So, exactly. I mean, you're a Sunday Times journalist. We all read your work over here. We're familiar with it. And you went to Russia. And I guess the genesis of this book is that ordinarily you might go and try and see as much as possible and do as many things as possible. In Russia, given the vast distances and various other things, that wasn't as possible. So, in effect, you started keeping a daily Facebook diary as much as anything. And hey, presto, 40,000 words after 33 days later, here we are.
This is it. I mean, you know, at a tournament, I guess, you know, boredom is the enemy, particularly for a Sunday journalist. It's not like during the regular season where you can go around meeting contacts, doing interviews and stuff. Previous tournaments, I'd always try to get out and see as many games as possible and you know, kind of keep busy in that way. And the other thing is, you know, you're together with a whole bunch of other journalists. It's very much a kind of school trip atmosphere. And some of the lads really like that. I guess it depends if you're a sort of pack animal or not. But I prefer a bit of my own space. I was just looking for stuff to do. And I started the Facebook diary as a way of killing time. And it actually became quite pleasurable, quite important to me. And I didn't envisage writing 40,000 words before I went, but that's what happened.
You say at one point if the Sunday Times had asked you to write 40,000 words in advance, you would have been onto the HR department. It's amazing when you're enjoying something how much work you can get through.
It is. I mean, at times I had to check myself because I found I was getting up in the morning and looking forward to my diary entry and maybe not looking forward to the England press conference quite so much or whatever. So I had to remember what I was there for. But what was nice about doing it was, you know, when you're writing for one of the traditional newspapers, it's very formal, I guess, in a good way. You know, you get this platform and so on, but there's not really much kind of engagement with people. And what was nice was just being able to write stuff, get people coming back to me. They were giving me ideas. I was given, things that picking up with stuff that they'd said to me and getting more stuff out of it. And I really, really enjoyed that part of it. And it enabled me to write about stuff at the World Cup that you can't really put in the Sunday Times, more personal stuff, I guess, or quirky stuff.
I guess a nod to the title Darts with Delhi, that was one of the more high-profile things that any journalist did over the summer. I mean, we were watching from afar and scoffing at the English charm offensive and all these journalists falling for it. But then I think as the tournament went on, we sort of started to like England a little bit as well. So it was Northcroft versus Dele Alli in the darts thing. That was an amazing spectacle in many ways. And I went from being very cynical about the whole thing to thinking, do you know what, they're not a bad bunch of lads.
Well, look, so did I. I mean, I'm not English either. I have been through it all before with the FA at different tournaments. I've seen them try different formula. I remember the days of Sven and the golden generation where, they really were followed by the paparazzi, treated like superstars. You didn't get near them much of the time. This was completely different. The darts thing started off as a bit of an in-joke, which I think could have been really cheesy, but it was an in-joke between Charlie Sale of the Daily Mail and some of the press team in the FA, because, if you remember, but in 2016, Joe Hart had made this unnecessary sort of big thing about the fact the players were playing darts, and he tried to make it a big mystery to the press, and it was just all very childish. So it started off as that. I was a bit sceptical when I heard there was a press centre with a dartboard, with a bowling alley, with a pool table. You just thought, is this a bit cheesy? Is it going to work? And you know what? It did. It did work. It was fun. Helped that they were doing well. Helped that they're a kind of humbler bunch of lads. And apart from actually playing the darts with Dele, which I didn't enjoy at all because I was crap, the whole thing was nice.
Yeah, 3 dart challenge. It's very important to note that Dele Alli scored 54 and Northcroft came in with a fairly miserable 24 with his 3 darts. You do make the point, and I think this is actually a very good point, totally true, that in some respects you do get a good sense of people through the mundane interactions. You say the little moments, the introductions, the small talk situations. You say Dele Alli was warm and down to earth. And I guess it was an opportunity to get that sense. Now, of course, it's a slightly artificial environment. There's cameras everywhere and photographers, so it still is, ultimately has the veneer of a publicity stunt, but you do at least get some access and some sense of them as people, I guess.
You do. It's always a funny thing as a journalist where you get to know these people through interviewing them or seeing them in the mix zones, but that's still a very them and us situation. Even if you get on with someone in an interview situation, it's still a transaction. You're still trying to get words from them. They're still the provider, and there's a certain barrier or whatever. And yes, you get to know people really well, but you get past that. But generally, there's still that barrier. When you play darts with someone, and even though there's cameras there, even though it was a bit of a hullabaloo, Dele Alli didn't have to be a nice lad. He didn't have to sort of shake my hand, have a bit of a chat, try and make me feel a little bit at ease. I think maybe you could see the sweat patches forming under my arms because all the Sky cameras were there. And yeah, you just get an instinct for someone. He was a nice fella, and I didn't have a negative opinion of him before the tournament, but I didn't have a particular opinion of him. Maybe I'd just seen what I'd seen on the pitch, and he can be a bit Marmite sometimes, Dele, but I came away thinking, what a nice lad.
And of course there is the halo effect with all of these players, and I'm sure you see it all the time, where if anybody is even a touch coherent or thoughtful or interesting, we come away and talk about, well, they're just fantastic, they're so intelligent and they're so amazing. And if we had met the same person on a random night out, we would think, well, they're perfectly pleasant, but ultimately a bit forgettable. So with that in mind, I don't want to go too far either, and that brings us to, without question, the greatest quote in the book and maybe of 2018. History, it is what it is.
The great philosopher Harry Kane, yeah. I mean, poor Harry. It did make me think. A lot of what I tried to explore, I guess, was the way we operate as journalists, the questions or the way we ask these people, the way we expect them to be. And poor Harry had just arrived in Volgograd, which, site of one of the bloodiest sieges, battles in World War II, and fresh off the plane, he goes to a press conference and he's asked for his view, really, of the Second World War and what he thought about the terrible loss of life. And it wasn't the best answer. History is what it is. I mean, I'm not sure if that would have played particularly well with the people of Volgograd. But as I said in the chapter, I'm not sure if I on the spot might have come up with a particularly better quote either.
I think that's the thing. Yeah. Like
this is it, and we are
glass houses. Yeah, they're just very ordinary people, and we expect too much of them sometimes, and that's why, it's great that Dele Alli was nice, but at the same time, all he did was show some basic manners. So,
true.
It's good. It's good. It's no more than good. They're normal people.
You're right, and they're kids as well. That's the other thing. Harry Kane's 23, Dele Alli's 21, and we're expecting them, because they are half decent at football, to also be, incredible performers in a publicity situation, and of course they're not going to be. I mean, Harry Kane did a little bit better than John Terry when I wrote about that, but I remember him being asked after the Malaysian aircraft went down in a mixer. Now, it's ridiculous to ask John Terry about the Malaysian air disaster to start with, but that's what we journalists do.
Yeah.
And his quote was, he said they'll be disappointed with that, which, maybe it was a bit more.
Fool all of us, really, for looking for answers there, probably. So covering England generally, I mean, it's quite interesting. You reflect on various English managers. Roy Hodgson missed a scouting trip over Iceland to go on a boat trip with Ray Lewington. Fabio Capello was very obsessed with his Capello Index, remember? And we remember an angling before the 2010 World Cup. Steve McLaren, you said, just seemed to spend the whole time fretting and obviously standing with his umbrella. Sven-Goran Eriksson was not the sober, clean-living Swede that you expected. Gareth Southgate seems to emerge quite well.
Yeah, Gareth is a proper human being. I got to know Gareth a little bit when he was a Sunday Times columnist, and very close to David Walsh, who wrote his autobiography. So I got to know Gareth a little bit socially. So I knew he was a decent fella, but I think that's been reflected in his management, full stop. Things like the relations with the media, I think they are what you want them to be as a football manager. I think Gareth's got perspective on that. Somebody not too bothered about the details, the small kind of negative stories, and saw the advantage of just communicating with people, and how that could free players mentally. But what I liked about him as well, I just feel that his version of Englishness is quite appealing to me. I'm a Scot that lives in England. My wife's English. I like the English, but sometimes I do feel a bit alien when there's uber nationalism. Gareth's got a kind of very down to earth, very intelligent way of going about being English, which I as I say, I found quite endearing, and a respect for other countries, a respect for the world stage, as it were, which again doesn't play the sort of patriotic card. I don't know. It's just the kind of guy that you could have that conversation in the pub with and come away feeling you'd spoken to, as I say, a real human being, an intelligent fella, and not a kind of caricature.
And I certainly got the impression you enjoyed covering this English side, and it was a different story to what we've had for maybe the guts of the last 20 years when it comes to English teams at tournaments. And that probably extends to the tournament itself. Like, if we're looking at this in very broad terms, such as the time we have, you make the point that really this was about the first tournament you really, really enjoyed and thought was quality and ticked all the boxes, or most of the boxes. I guess nothing can tick all of them, in arguably about 20 years.
That's right. I mean,
you were haggard and cynical, I should add. This is what you complained incessantly about having to cover the tournament initially. This is important for the viewers to know.
I cringed because I think about a pint I had with my mate Matt before I went away, and all I did was complain about having to go to Russia and watch the World Cup. And Matt works for British Gas and was just looking at me going, "You are a spoiled idiot." But you do get like that as a journalist.
Yeah.
I've never not enjoyed a tournament. I wouldn't want to say that, but the actual football's been poor. At '98 was my first one. Scotland were there. It was great. Since then, 2002. You're talking about Turkey nearly got the final. I thought 2004 was quite good in Portugal. Apart from that, you're seeing football that's maybe a notch below the Champions League. Always enjoyed the places in different ways, but then there's the FIFA thing that they become more and more of a sort of marketing machine and so on. So I did go with quite a jaundiced view, and was just, there's nothing better than being pleasantly surprised by something. And that was my vibe throughout my time in Russia, I guess.
You had an interesting chat with Gary Kasparov as well before we get too misty-eyed about Russia.
Yeah, I didn't chat to Gary Kasparov. That was my colleague Matt Dickinson.
Sorry, apologies, yeah.
No, not at all. But Gary Kasparov spoke to Matt about Russia itself, and he he called it Putin's Russia during the World Cup. He called it a Potemkin nation. You know, the reference being Potemkin was the sort of courtier of Catherine the Great, who built these model Russian villages everywhere she went. So every time she went on a trip to somewhere, all she ever saw was beautiful Russian villages, which were then taken down and built, 2 miles down the road so she could see the same again. And Garry Kasparov spoke to Matt about Russia being this Potemkin nation. We were journalists there thinking, oh, this is great. The Russian people are nice. They're all happy. But in his opinion, it was all sort of faked for us, a propaganda exercise, which I don't think is entirely true, but I think it had to be borne in mind. And as a journalist, you are always trying to ask, am I just caught in a bubble here? Am I living a privileged life on expenses, doing something that's really nice? I've got the power of free speech because I'm a journalist, but what about the people here? So that was something I tried to wrestle with the whole time I was in Russia. Is what I'm seeing, is the good time that I'm having actually real for Russian people?
There was a very interesting point where we all remember that unbelievable Messi goal, the touch with the thigh and the ball over the top. And you do a mental calculation about, well, firstly, how many games you've seen, and then maybe how many passes you've seen, and then you put into context this moment that you get to witness.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've got a sort of like geeky side, so I quite enjoyed sort of trying to work out exactly how many touches of the football have I seen in my life and stuff. But the point was, I've been to goodness knows how many football matches, but I've probably seen about a million passes. I think I worked out, maybe a million touches of the ball. And Lionel Messi's played the best pass I've ever seen in the flesh at the 2014 World Cup. For Argentina against Belgium. Extraordinary pass. You find it on YouTube. And then there was that moment against Nigeria in St. Petersburg, the goal he scored, which just, given the context of the moment, Argentina fighting for their lives, all the weight of expectation on him, this dysfunctional team looking for him to do something incredible. The touch with his thigh and the first time finish with his wrong foot was just incredible. And I thought I've probably now seen the best single touch of a football I've ever seen from Messi. So that, it's the best pass and the best touch as well. And it's not a great revelation that Lionel Messi's good at football, but that was certainly the conclusion I came to in that chapter.
And I asked this question knowing that you've mused on it in the book. How do you now feel about being there in the flesh and seeing the games in real time versus the currently absolutely phenomenal coverage on television where you see everything in HD?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always sort of struggling with this because when you're at a game, you get so much that the viewer doesn't see, but then you also get you miss a lot of stuff that they do see, and that means that sometimes factually you're struggling as a journalist to match the information people have got back home. Just simple things like someone being offside or not, who's the last person to touch the ball, who's provided the assist. People can see that straight away. But what you do see in the flesh, and I'd never ever trade the live experience for anything. You get a sense of the whole pitch. You get a sense of the speed. You get a sense of the physicality. You get a sense of the emotions, the context in which people are doing things. The penalty shootout I wrote about in the book, that England against Colombia, we were in a really privileged position. The press box in the Spartak Stadium was right down to the left of the centre circle, right down by where the penalties were being taken. And it was just the sound of Marcus Rashford, Kieran Trippier, Harry Kane. The sound of their ball striking is something I'll never forget. Just hearing the boot on ball, this incredibly pure, percussive sound, and watching the ball fly into the net. Being there is still the best possible thing, and it's still the challenge, I guess, as a journalist, to try and convey that in some way and give people something that they're not seeing on telly. Yeah, I guess the senses are still going to be ultimately hit with a million things different things going on. I mean, I guess on that point as well, though, the Martin Samuel guide to player ratings was quite striking. Yeah, I mean, player ratings are a nonsense, aren't they? They are, yeah. Yeah, and they're also a nonsense that's consumed by players, which is quite worrying. But yeah, the first thing they look for. It is the first thing they look for, and the first thing readers question you on. But you got to watch 22 players 26 players sometimes. You've got the ball's actually in play for 53 minutes. Some players might touch the ball 10 times in a half, maybe a little bit more. You've got to write a 1,000-word match report, and at the same time, you've somehow got to grade every player individually on every touch. And Martin just came up with this great formula that I think an older journalist had passed down to him, but he basically said, in that half an hour at the start of a game where you've actually got an opportunity to watch before you start writing crazily, he said, just start them off with 6. If the first touch he sees a good touch, give them 7. If it's a bad touch, give them 5. Watch for a second touch. If it's good again, give them 8. If it's bad, give them 4. And he said that'll be as accurate as anything else. And he's probably right.
Yeah. Very lastly then, non-journalism fans won't give a damn, but I'm very curious, and I think lots of listeners would be. Your first one was in 98. You talk in the book about the new breed of journalists. You mentioned Sam Wallace and lads who aren't drinking 20 pints a night. How, so the drinking, the late nights, the mad stories, how has it all changed from a work point of view, and also with social media and the demands online? Are journalists working harder than ever? Or covering a tournament from a journalistic point of view, what are we seeing these days in comparison with 20 years ago, finally?
Oh, I mean, it is a total difference. My first World Cup, bear in mind, I was with the Scottish Press Pack, which maybe was like traditional journalism, shall we say.
Yeah.
I remember
it's a hard-drinking profession, traditionally.
Very much so. And particularly in Scotland. And I remember, you get these little lanyards at the start of a tournament that's got your, accreditation on it. I remember back in 98, one of the Scottish lads, one of the older journalists, when he got his lanyard, he put it on and he didn't take it off for a month. He wore it in the shower dead because he knew the minute he took it off, he'd be so drunk at some point that he'd lose it. So he kept it on for the full month. That's kind of what it was like. But as you allude to, Joe, we didn't have the work in those days.
Yeah.
There wasn't social media. There wasn't, people writing for multiple platforms, multiple organisations. If you're a Sunday journalist, you filed 2 articles a week. In France, we were in Provence. I kind of went sightseeing in Mont Ventoux and out for nice lunches and testing wines and stuff, which we're working too hard. But there's a younger generation of journalists now, and I guess I'm middle-aged. I'm somewhere in the middle. But these lads are also, they're super fit. They're obsessed with Strava. They're clean living. They kind of almost want to be sportsmen themselves, and good luck to them, I think, as I say, I'm probably somewhere kind of in the middle. You can still have a good night out, but the problem is you have your good night out and you're still on Twitter, you're still on your phone, and you pay for it in the morning. And I do think that side of it's, I've really valued the old side of it, because it's on those trips, it's on those nights out that you do make connections, you come up with ideas. It's like being in a combat situation together. You come back with great friendships because you've had these great sort of nights out and stuff. And it's a shame that's going, to be honest. But goodness knows what it will be like in the next.
Incredibly boring. Yeah, it's amazing how it's almost gone in tandem with the game itself. If people want a bit of World Cup nostalgia this Christmas, they could do a lot worse than Deadlines and Darts with Delhi, My World Cup Diary, England's Rebirth in Russia, and Other Unexpected Tales. Sunday Times football correspondent Jonathan Northcroft. Jonathan, thanks a million.
Cheers, thanks very much.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Discover Dyson hair care technology this weekend at Harvey Norman with the new Dyson Airwrap Styler. Curl, wave, smooth, dry, powerful, precise styling with no extreme heat. Helps protect your natural shine every time you style. And with Christmas just around the corner, give the gift of beautiful hair with the Dyson Supersonic Special Edition gift set, in-store or online. Visit us at Harvey Norman today and let the Dyson experts help you find the right Dyson hair care product for you.
Go, Harvey, go!
Big news, Netflix is on Sky Q. So, it's never been easier to go from a Netflix show to a Sky show. 1 minute you're having a royal time watching The Crown.
How nice.
And the next you're exploring Westworld.
Where are we?
You can get lost in Stranger Things. And then find yourself right in the thick of Game of Thrones. Whoa! The best TV all in one place. Netflix on Sky Q. Coming November.
Visit sky.com/Netflix for terms and conditions.
Hi, I'm Jamie Heaslip, and I believe in the power of peer-to-peer business financing with Flender.ie. Investing in Irish business is important to me, so much so that I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. Just go to flender.ie/Jamie and send us your proposals. I'll be choosing 10 companies that I'll be backing personally.
Flender.ie is a revolutionary new type of financing. Unlike some other lenders, you could have a decision and the funds in your account in just 24 hours. For more information, go to flender.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
Some brands offer you low finance, or cashback, or servicing.
Renault don't do ors. We do ands. The Renault Kadjar with 1.91% APR and €1,000 cashback and 3 years servicing. Get great 191 offers at the Renault Runway event from the 8th to the 10th of November. Visit your local Renault dealer.
Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.
Come in, Agent. HQ, this is Agent Deirdre. Go ahead. Observations on human cleverness this week. The humans continue to iron their undergarments. An exhausting activity to which we can see no point whatsoever.
Nobody sees them.
However, they have been clever enough to switch to Energia, where they get Ireland's cheapest dual-fuel bundle.
Which is good, given their obsession with ironing underpants.
Very good, little humans. Save and save again with Energia.
Switch to energia.ie.
Based on average annual usage, discounted unit rate, standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax. Prices September 24th, 2018 and subject to change. T's and C's and early termination fee apply. Estimated annual bill €1,534. Verification energia.ie/EAB.
Get Christmas wrapped up this year with Harvey Norman, with gifts that they'll really love. Let your loved ones watch their Christmas favourites with the multifunctional Lenovo Tab 4 with Home Assist speaker, now just €179. Or let the camera lover in your life capture and instantly share professional photos and movies with the Canon 4000D digital SLR camera, now just €359. For more great gift ideas, visit us online or in store. Christmas wrapped up. Love Harvey Norman.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
It's Manchester United 2, Juventus 1, we should say right off the bat. They're into injury time, which means that in the pool it is Juventus on 9 points. Manchester United will go up to 7 points from 4, and Valencia are on 5. So an extraordinary turn of events. 2 substitutions crucial here, Kenny. Juan Mata came on, and of course Mauro and Fellaini in their time of need. He came on as well. So Mata, first of all, with a free kick, made it 1-1.
Oh yeah, sweet technique. It wasn't surprising, Joe. I just got that feeling when he was over the free kick. I just really fancied him. His technique is so good over the wall, just in terms of accuracy and speed on the ball. So yeah, brilliant technique. And that's the qualities which he brings to the team. Had the argument before the game, the merits and demerits of playing Herrera in there ahead of a Mata or a Lingard in the central. They're more of attack-minded player. Yes, Herrera, defensively disciplined, makes his fair share of tackles, etc. Harton is his slave to an extent. But these are the qualities that Mata and players of his ilk bring to the team. And I just feel as if Mourinho can lean on these players a little bit more than he does. I mean, 1-0 down, suddenly the decision comes, let's make these changes, let's get more attack-minded players on the team. Just feels as if they can do a little bit earlier. And I'd love to see him do a little bit more earlier in the game. Yeah, Sanchez went off as well. Rashford's playing through the middle now. Fellaini came on. And so he was involved in a way in the second goal. Set piece as well, ball into the box. Then what happened? Yeah, great delivery, in-swing ball from Ashley Young. Fellaini doesn't get a flick on it, Joe, but just creates mayhem. Yeah. Szczesny, for me, wouldn't be overly critical, but for me, the best goalkeepers in the world make a decision to step forward there and deal with that cross into the box. Or do they catch it, or at the very least, they get a big punch on the ball. They're decisive. He wasn't. He took a step back. He was a little bit uncertain. And then when the ball bounced in front of him, even then I felt he should have been getting a big palm or even punching that ball away from danger instead of just almost pushing it into the face of Bonucci. I think even then it deflected off Sandro and went into the net. So real kind of powder puff goalkeeping from Szczesny. Yeah, so a remarkable couple of minutes from 1-0 down to 2-1 up in Turin. Juventus in Turin are rather unbelievable. The last time they were beaten there by Manchester United was in 2003 when Giggs scored that mazy goal and dribbled it into the far corner. Since then, in all their Champions League games at home, they've lost once. So they'll be scratching their heads. Is big. Yeah, they've been the better team. And we never got a chance with Jonathan Northcroft on to really describe the Ronaldo goal, which is probably the goal of the night. I haven't seen all the other games, but it'll be do well to be beaten. It was just class from Ronaldo. United could be in here. Ball through to Rashford. He's 1-on-1. Oh, great save, Szczesny. Might have scored, Rashford.
on another occasion. It was a good chance, and it was played through. United on the break, Juventus pushing, and Martial slipped him through, and he was towards the right hand side of the goal, and Szczesny came out and spread himself. Rashford probably should have scored, really.
The thing, Joe, isn't it? Just a little bit. You know, you threaten to smash it, and you just kind of just that little dink, almost kid on the goalkeeper, doing the right thing, trying to put it across the goalkeeper, but. Again, top class striker there, just real, you know, ice cool, just lifts it over the goalkeeper. But
Ronaldo's finish.
Oh, brilliant.
So good.
Yeah, and just ball back.
Describe it for people who didn't
see. Yeah, we talk about Juventus, how clever they are with their passing, you know, 1-2 touch, working the way up the pitch. But Bonucci there in the halfway line, and he's a very good long pass to the ball, Bonucci, under no pressure, just floated the ball over the head of Lindelof. Ronaldo timed the running behind, and it's one of those. Some would argue the most difficult volley, Joe, coming over your shoulder. You've got to take it first time. Just brilliant, just absolutely. The technique on the volley was magnificent. The guy just didn't see it fly past him.
He basically got a standing ovation from everyone. Ronaldo, everybody in the bench was up and applauding.
Yes, similar to the overhead kick here, which he scored for around the It wasn't against Juventus, different type of goal, but in terms of the execution, the technique, probably as good.
It had the wow moment. City 6-0. I mean, they are just in cruise control against Shakhtar. So that's a full time for you, actually. Jesus has scored again. That's a hat-trick for Gabriel Jesus. Sterling has scored. Riyad Mahrez has scored. David Silva scored first. So Man City very comfortable. They are rather good.
Everybody's forward, Joe. Everybody wants a piece of it. Rotating the squad really well. People come in. They know they have to make an impression, like Jesus tonight, which he has done. He hasn't had a lot of game time.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of seems to be chomping at the bit.
Manchester Derby's live on Sunday. I'd say realistically you'll talk to John about that in the morning, the way the clock is shaping up this evening. Toni Kroos has scored for Madrid, so they're 5-0 up, which is a good result for them. Before you go, I want to get your thoughts on the vacant under-21 position. So Noel King has stepped away after 8 years. So he was in charge for 4 qualification campaigns, never managed to get the under-21s to a major tournament, finished 3rd in the most recent one behind Norway and Germany. One of the interesting things about this, I mean, it's not surprising everybody feels maybe it's time, including Noel himself, maybe to step aside and give someone else a go. So Mark Kinsella has been working alongside him, seems unlikely to be in the reckoning according to reports. It's gone full time, by the way. United have won 2-1. Mourinho's hot and bothered about something. Kevin Doyle's in the mix, Andy Reid is in the mix, Richard Dunn, Sean St. Ledger, Colin Healy. You've obviously worked or been part of an underage setup. Keith Andrews has gone in there as well at one point. Shay Given seems to be heading that way. Of your generation, there's plenty who are sniffing around and interested. And Lee Carsley's doing great things as well.
Yeah, and I think we've got some really good options here. And I think it'd be a great opportunity to incorporate one of our ex-players in a kind of managerial head coach role at underage level, which really hasn't happened too often. I think Mark Kinsella is worth a good show. He's worked under Noel for a couple of years there and knows the landscape. I think a couple of players you haven't mentioned, it's not mentioned enough for me in terms of the quality of young coaches that we have. You've mentioned a few of them there. But lads who've been doing the job at a high level across the seas. Stephen Reid, I'd mentioned, just stepped down recently at Crystal Palace. He's had a huge amount of plaudits from Roy Hodgson and managers who he's worked under. The assistant manager now at Monaco, Kwame Ampadu, I know that's not realistic at the moment, but I'm just pointing out Mark Henry, who's working in the Manchester City Academy for some years. Lee Carsley, you've mentioned. There's a number of these players doing really good work at good levels across in the UK. And players, again, there who are just coming out of the game, the likes of Kevin Doyle, Andy Reid, Richard Dunn. I think Richard just recently stepped in. I'm not one of these players who's desperate. We've got to get an ex-player in there, because you have to have the right credentials, coaching credentials. You have to have the skill set, Joe. But if you have that skill set, plus you have the added experience of being part of the international setup, particularly at senior international level and being a prominent member of that for me is the ideal combination there. And I think we've got a number of those players where maybe some of them lacking a little bit in experience in terms of depth of experience. But I think there's a real opportunity there to make a bit of a leap of faith in one of our players, and I'm sure John Delaney, route doctor, who make that decision will give it some serious thought.
Yeah, Robbie Keane was mentioned initially. He's just starting his pro licence now, so I don't know where he'll be in the reckoning.
Might be an issue there, Joe, with the pro licence. Actually, having your pro licence, I'm not too sure, but I think it's an exciting time. I can understand why so many players are interested in it. It's a chance to work with one of our elite groups, some outstanding individual players there. So that's a really challenging environment to be in for any any ex-players who've got ambitions to coach and to coach at a good level.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great vehicle to go and interact and work with the players.
The draw for the next campaign is in December, so we're expecting maybe the manager might be in place by then, so we'll see. Pretty exciting to get one of those names involved. I should tell you tonight's mystery voice was Wayne Rooney. Seamus Farron has won a €100 gift from Export.ie, and you're in the end of week draw for a €1,000 gift card, all with thanks to Export.ie, and you can check out their showroom at Sandyford Industrial Estate or shop at Export.ie. OTBAM live from the Web Summit again tomorrow. Jaron Owen over in Lisbon, and we are done for what was that? We gotta go. We're late. John Giles in studio, Cora Staunton in studio, Keith Andrews as well. Good luck.